From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The president threatens new tariffs in the trade war with China, plus soybean harvest rolls down south, and agribusiness prepping for the week ahead.
We learned that the market right now is kind of in a bit of a holding pattern other than wheat.
Machinery Pete has a combine surprise, and billiards bringing people together for a healthy life in Tennessee.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. President Trump appears ready to impose steep additional tariffs on China, and it's not just the $200 billion he has already threatened. The White House now talking about more than doubling that amount. As we headed toward the weekend, the president telling reporters that he may impose another $267 billion tariff on Chinese imports, and that's on top of the $200 billion he's been threatening in recent weeks. The U.S. already has $50 billion in tariffs on Chinese goods. Those were imposed back in July. Trump's latest tariff threats, assuming he follows through, would more than cover the value of all goods the U.S. buys from China. Now, last year's government data shows the U.S. imported $505 billion of Chinese products in 2017. The president telling reporters, "I hate to do this, but behind that, there's another $267 billion ready to go on short notice if I want." As we start a new week, we'll be watching the U.S. Trade Representative's office for any announcement regarding these additional tariffs. Another deadline in the ongoing NAFTA negotiations comes and goes. The U.S. and Canada working hard last week to reach an agreement. However, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow telling reporters Friday that issues around dairy continue to block progress. He says that issue stands in the way of a final agreement, telling the Fox Business Network that, quote, "milk, dairy, drop the barriers, give our farmers a break, and we can fix some of the other things." Canada's foreign minister describing the high-stakes talks as constructive.
We continue to very strongly make the case that the best outcome for Canada and for the United States is for us to lift the tariffs on both sides. That would be the right outcome, and we're very clear about that.
Bloomberg reporting that moods are upbeat, but a deal will have to wait until U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer returns from a trip to the EU this week. Favorable weather expected to help harvest run smoothly this week in many parts of the country. Late last week, temperatures in Minnesota dipping below freezing in several locations. Chris Follen posted this picture of frost in Minnesota on Twitter. They say it wasn't a killing freeze, although some parts of St. Louis County saw temperatures drop down to 24. Meanwhile, in the Mid-South, farmers in Kentucky are getting serious about harvest. Corn is drying down, combines are running. This corn near Owensboro, Kentucky is running between 20 and 25% moisture.
Every farm we've gone to, even though there's some holes in the farm, the average has been up there record setting. So I don't want the grain market to know about it, but I think we've got a good yield out there, good crop.
As of last week, USDA said nearly 60% of Kentucky's corn is mature. That's nearly 20 points ahead of average. A fresh crop progress report is due out later today, and it's expected to include how much corn has been harvested nationally for the first time this year. In Louisiana, farmers are nearly halfway through with their harvest, and so far, results have been encouraging. LSU Ag Center correspondent Craig Gautreaux tells us soybean yields have been good and the quality of the beans is much better than last year.
Farmers across Louisiana are busy harvesting the state's soybean crop while keeping a watchful eye on the remnants of Tropical Storm Gordon. The crop has been a good one so far, both in terms of yield and quality.
I've been talking with a lot of growers who are averaging as much as 70 and 75 bushels to the acre across the farm. And the biggest thing this year against last year is our quality has been really good so far.
Spivey says this past winter's severe cold helped the crop by reducing the population of the red-banded stink bug, the state's #1 insect pest of soybeans.
I believe that's part of what's led to our increased quality that we've had so far this year. That the increased stink bug pressures in 2017 that we faced really reduced our quality, and that's something that we haven't had to fight this year.
Spivey said soybeans were planted in 3 different stages across the state because of the weather, and beans are in various stages of development. He says the late planted beans are most at risk.
Planting late is going to extend that season for us, and it's going to extend that potential for tropical system issues to come later in the year.
Most of the late planted beans are a result of dry conditions that forced farmers to delay planting until moisture levels were sufficient.
We do sacrifice a little yield there, but it's better to lose a little yield by planting late rather than having to replant a couple times from planting into completely dry soils.
Farmers are expected to harvest nearly 1.4 million acres of soybeans this year. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gotro reporting.
Mike Hoffman, continuing our look at crop conditions and weather. He joins us with today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. We heard from a farmer in Crawford County, Pennsylvania, who says it's been a great year for growing in northwestern PA. The comments indicate corn, soybeans, and hay are approaching record yield potential. Corn silage harvesting will start very soon. Soybean leaves are starting to change color and drop. And across the country in Klickitat County, Washington, a farmer says wheat and hay crops are average in his county. They had just enough moisture to finish for the most part. We haven't seen rain, though, in months there. And taking a look at the drought monitor, it's getting better across the middle of the country, but there are still some pockets that are extremely dry. And the Four Corner region continues dry, as well as much of Oregon getting drier and drier. We'll talk about your forecast coming up, but first here are some hometown temps.
Plan for the unexpected with weather forecast updates. Local forecasts are delivered right to your cell phone each morning, making planning a little bit easier. Just text Weather 6 to 31313 to get started.
When we come back, we'll talk markets, harvest, weather, and everything else you'll need to know to be prepared this week.
Hey, stay tuned, folks. I'm going to tell you about the lowest hour John Deere auction I think I've almost ever seen in 3 decades.
And later, combining the benefits of sport and fun with staying healthy. We're off to Tennessee today and in the country.
Advice, information, ideas, and more. If it's ag tech, it's in the Tech Tool Shed, your unbiased one-stop source for everything ag tech.
Agribusiness, let's see how markets closed from the floor of the CME in Chicago.
Soybeans were firm. That WASDE report is coming up next week, Wednesday, and everyone's looking forward to that. The market kind of firmed up a little bit, even though the range was a little bit tight. There is some concerns about that virus in China, that it will definitely have some effects on our markets, and I think that could possibly be putting a little bit of a lid on the market here. But we're at least starting to come back, and it's still traded in a small range. Corn was very steady today. The crop yield estimates are expected really to be higher. With that, it's really keeping the market from rallying at all, and we've stayed in a very tight range over the past number of days. Now, the wheat was a little bit lower. The prices really need to fall to kind of compete with the global numbers. We have not been able to be competitive, and the exports have really showed it. And so the market just keeps marching a little bit lower so that we can find a way to start moving some of our supplies. With the winter wheat planting coming up, and it looks like it's going to be great, and certainly nothing like it was last year. That's definitely going to weigh on the futures prices. So cattle was rising. That swine fever out of China is definitely affecting the market, all the livestock markets really across the board. There are some concerns that virus is going to live in other meat products, which definitely should give our beef production and beef exports a little bit of a boost. We're hoping to really move that somewhat higher. And I'll tell you that what's really showing us more of an indication of that is the feeders. The feeders have been higher as well. That outbreak is expected to be a lot long lasting than I think people are seeing. I know that certainly in China, or perhaps the news is kind of keep it quiet, this swine virus, but I think that it's going to affect China a lot more than they expect. That's all from the floor at the CME Group here in Chicago. I'm Virginia McGathy.
Here at the Agribusiness Desk to kick off the week, we've got Jeff French, Top Third Ag Marketing, and Angie Setzer with Citizens Grain. Thank you both for being here. All right, let's talk about what did we learn last week. Angie, we'll start with you.
Well, we learned that the market right now is kind of in a bit of a holding pattern other than wheat. Hopefully we are able to establish a bit of a short-term low in wheat.
Tough market for wheat.
It definitely is. Yeah, it was a tough week for wheat, say that 5 times fast. So we'll definitely want to see what happens there, because not only, corn has somewhat of a strong story behind it, but it's married to both soybeans and wheat, who obviously don't want to get their lives together anytime soon. Right. And so we're just kind of watching to see what happens. We'll be looking ahead to the Wednesday USDA report. We're going to be watching trade news. Do we see, some hard-hitting talk come towards Japan?
Sure.
I mean, obviously, we finally, hopefully crossed the NAFTA hurdle, which we do have some time to solve the Canadian issue there as well. But hopefully we'll get that crossed. We get to celebrate just in time to figure out that light at the end of the tunnel is, in fact, a Japanese train. So we need to see what happens there, from a political standpoint. And then we'll be watching what takes place with the disease development in hogs there in China.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, as we look forward toward the week ahead, what's on your radar? What's coming that we need to be aware of other than that Japanese train?
Well, the big USDA Wednesday WASDE report.
Right, absolutely.
All eyes will be on that, and as producers, you should be getting positions in place if you have unpriced bushels to protect against a potentially bearish report. Because, last 5 years in a row consecutively, the trade has underestimated the soybean yield for the September report. And, the old adage, big crops get bigger. We might see it Wednesday. Yeah,
could be explosive. And do you believe the yields that they had in August, and do you think they'll change?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, when it comes to soybeans, a lot of folks will joke that guessing soybean yields is as hard as guessing wheat. Well, you can see what wheat looks like when you're expecting the crop to come off. So soybeans, to me, the weather was conducive to a reasonable crop. Obviously, sure. I struggle with the idea that we're up 5 bushel to the acre versus a year ago, but obviously everyone is in the consensus that we're over 52 at this point in time. So I'll just go sit in the corner and think about what I've done. So we'll have to see. But at this point in time, what I really look forward to in the September report from the USDA is their actual boots on the ground sort of numbers versus a lot of the survey-based indications that they use in August for their production estimates.
All right. Well, it'll be an interesting week as always. Appreciate you both for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day in just a minute.
For help solving your cash grain problems, call Angie Setzer with Citizens LLC at 800-858-3738. For a special report on the grain markets, call toll-free at 877-TT-HEDGE. That's 877-884-3343.
Welcome back to Ag Day on this Monday morning. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here looking at rainfall over the past week, and a lot of places got rain, and it's not even all on this map.
No, because this only goes through this past Friday, which doesn't take into account most of the remnants of Gordon. And of course, that occurred over the weekend from parts of southeastern Pennsylvania right through the Ohio River Valley into parts of the eastern Great Lakes. But this is from a week ago Saturday through this past Friday. You can see some decent amounts of rain in places that needed it. Central Texas. Lots of places ended up with 2 to 3 inches of rain, even more in spots. Southeastern portions of Texas a little more. Same thing over in the panhandle of Florida into southwestern Alabama. Parts of that area ended up with 8 inches or more of rain during the week period. And of course that area from central Kansas through southern Iowa, eastern Iowa, even parts of northern Missouri, which are in a really bad drought or have been much of the summer, into the western Great Lakes. Just lots of rain around the area. Now we've been forecasting that increase in rain, and it looks like that's going to continue in places anyway. We'll get to that in a moment. There's the jet stream. You can still see a little bit of the remnant trough from Gordon moving off to the northeast. Other than that, we start to see a ridge come into the eastern and southern plains area, and that will keep things on the warm side. But this trough coming into the northwest is going to bring some cool air, especially for the middle and latter parts of the week for the western states. And of course, we're going to be watching on hurricane watch, I should say, for the East Coast, because we are going to see a system coming in out there, and that could put down a whole bunch of rain. There is no doubt about that. So that's one that we'll just have to watch. By Monday, you can kind of see a big zonal flow across the northern tier of states. So temperatures this week above normal. Southeast through the East Coast, all the way back across the Great Lakes, most of the northern Mississippi Valley into the southwest. Go below normal in the northern Rockies, West Coast area, below normal also in much of central Texas because of all the rain you've had lately. Precipitation this week above normal up and down the East Coast. Depending on the track of the hurricane, we'll maybe see way above normal in places, so keep that in mind. From the Great Lakes through most of the west, below normal. Expected. 30-day outlook for temperatures above normal. The eastern third of the country, the Dakotas, parts of Minnesota below normal, also above normal in much of the west. 30-day outlook for precipitation from the mid-Atlantic back through the central and southern plains above normal, below normal in the northwest. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to El Paso, Texas. First of all, lots of sunshine, very hot, high of 96. Decatur, Illinois, a mix of clouds and sunshine, high of 75. And we'll go to Raleigh, North Carolina next. Partly sunny and humid today, maybe a thunderstorm, high around 87.
Combine sales have been turning heads lately. Machinery Pete has some details coming up next. And later, friendship and fun can help keep you healthy. We'll show you how the volunteer state is making that work. Coming up on In the Country.
Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Even as harvest fires up, interest in good quality used combines has been turning heads. Machinery Pete joins us to explain.
Hey folks, reporting on the road for you this week from Woonsocket, South Dakota. We're out here filming kind of an amazing auction. Do you want to talk low-hour pre-def stuff? This is amazing. So by the time you watch this, the sale will already be in the books. Sale's on Friday, September 7th. But I tell you what, a 2012 John Deere S550 combine, 95.2 separator hours on it. Now to me, this is really interesting because just a week ago, out in west central Minnesota, on a farm auction by Zilsdorf Auction, we saw a 2010 John Deere 9670 STS, 317 SEP hours on it. So for 158,000 bucks, second highest one this year. And I think there have been some pretty good buys on these kind of 4 to 6 year old combines. But obviously, the 2012 today, only 95.2 separator hours on it. So how high is it gonna go? Well, go to machinerypete.com. We'll have all the YouTube video from this auction posted, and there's also, folks, a 2010 John Deere 7830 with 254 actual hours on it.
All right, when we come back, we break with Tennessee's Charles Denny.
Grab a cue stick, we're playing pool and talking good health with the Billiard Buddies in Loudoun County, Tennessee. That story coming up on Ag Day.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota's M7060, built to get the job done. See KubotaUSA.com or your local Kubota dealer for more information.
A game of pool can be a fun way to spend time with friends and even learn how to improve your health. UT Extension in One Tennessee County found a unique way to connect with men and encourage them to take part in a diabetes awareness program. Charles Denny cues up this story with the Billiard Buddies.
Rack 'em and break 'em. Chalk up a cue stick and take your aim. Mornings at the Loudoun County Senior Center include some spirited games of pool with this group of regulars, dubbed the Billiard Buddies. It's competitive but friendly, with abundant, good-natured trash talking. Bobby Pass comes here several days a week and enjoys the friendships.
And it's just good companionship, playing pool, pass the time, get a little exercise walking around. And I've played pool about all my life since I was about 14 years old, off and on, so something we like doing down here.
But Bobby isn't just here for a game of 8-ball. A type 2 diabetic for many years, he's one of the Billiard Buddies also recruited for this diabetes care class, taught by UT Extension just a room away from the pool table.
UT Extension has been teaching this diabetes class for years, but mostly it's been women who show up. Agents wanted to connect with men, and this pool table was a great way to reach a new audience with a serious message.
Sheila Borders with UT Extension leads the group, this day talking about depression and its tie-in with a chronic disease like diabetes.
Boy, Harrison, you're ugly.
Borders says the pool table provides social connectedness for these men and was her in to get them to take part.
They wouldn't come to my programs on their own, so I just spent some time in there, got to know them, had some of them teach me how to play pool. I'm still nowhere near their skill level, but I have fun with them, and but it helped me to build relationships with them, get to know their needs.
Borders says some of the men are widowers, and if they're dealing with type 2 diabetes, it's important for them to eat well, exercise, and take their medication. If a game of pool draws them to the center, she can then deliver information about healthy living.
Usually it's the wife taking care of the husband, just like she does the kids, but then when the wife is gone, they've got to have that information to be able to do it for themselves.
The pool table stays busy just about all day at the Loudon Senior Center, so why not use it to get someone's attention? Put some English on your information delivery and run the table for good health.
Good job.
This is Charles Denny reporting.
Thanks, Charles. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.